Your designs? These are clearly my work, Eleanor. Amanda's voice carried across the boardroom with perfect clarity, her polished confidence never faltering. I stood before the projection screen, my hands steady despite the rage coursing through me. On display were my winter garden project designs, work I'd sketched late into countless nights, inspired by childhood memories of my grandmother's garden that survived three major hurricanes. Work that now bore Amanda Collins' name. The board members shifted uncomfortably, glancing between us. Richard Morrison from Alden Partners leaned forward, his experienced eyes studying me with curiosity. Mrs. Harris, you claim these sustainable design elements originated with you? I don't claim it. I can prove it. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. At 56, I had spent nearly 3 decades watching others, usually younger, usually more politically adept, take credit for my work. But this time was different. This time, I had evidence. William Grant, our 72-year-old founder, cleared his throat. Eleanor, I understand you're upset about your reassignment, but these accusations are serious. They are, I agreed, connecting my laptop to the projector. And so is theft of intellectual property. As my files appeared on screen, original timestamps intact, emails where Amanda herself had acknowledged my authorship years earlier, I caught her expression changing from confidence to fear. At that moment, I knew the tide was finally turning. How had I, always the accommodating team player, reached this point of confrontation? It began 6 months ago, with a casual conversation in an upscale cafe that would change everything. Flashback. 6 months earlier. The company is moving in a new direction, Eleanor. Amanda Collins stirred her cappuccino with practiced delicacy, her manicured nails clicking against fine porcelain. At 38, our marketing vice president had mastered the art of delivering devastating news with sympathetic smiles. We need innovative leadership for the digital age. I'm afraid your position is being restructured. We sat in Immerse's, the type of cafe where business deals are softened by ambient jazz and $20 coffee. Through the window, I could see the Harborview complex, a building I had redesigned 3 years ago, saving the company $400,000 while winning a regional sustainability award. Amanda had accepted that award on my behalf. Restructured, I repeated, the word bitter on my tongue. You mean demoted. Special advisor sounds distinguished, she counted smoothly. You'll mentor junior staff, consult on projects when needed. The firm values your historical perspective. Historical. At 56, I was being shelved like an outdated reference book. I watched Amanda check her phone, probably updating her Instagram where she documented her rise as a female pioneer in architecture. The irony wasn't lost on me. The Winter Garden project will continue under my direct supervision, she continued. William was quite impressed with my sustainable design approach. My project. My designs. Based on innovative water conservation systems I developed over 20 years. I maintained my composure, though inside my heart hammered against my ribs. I understand perfectly, I said finally, a strange calm washing over me. I'll clear my desk by Friday. Amanda seemed relieved at my easy capitulation. This transition will be smooth, I promise. The announcement goes out tomorrow. As she signed the check with a flourish, I made a decision. Amanda, my project files are organized for handover. You'll have everything you need by Thursday. Wonderful, she smiled, not noticing my careful wording. Not everything I had, just everything she would need. Walking back to the office, I passed the Madison Square Garden, another of my designs, another plaque bearing Amanda's name as lead architect. For 8 years at Grant Architectural Design, I had watched my work become someone else's legacy. My phone buzzed. A text from Michael, our senior engineer and my friend of 20 years. How bad was it? As expected. Demoted to special advisor. Winter Garden is officially hers now. That's insane. That project is your baby. Yes, it was. Like the daughter and son I'd raised alone after my divorce, sacrificing time with them to build my career, only to reach this point. Being edged out by someone who valued appearance over substance, social media presence over craftsmanship. At the office, later that day, I unlocked my desk drawer, retrieving the external hard drive containing copies of all my original designs. Insurance I'd begun collecting months ago when Amanda's behavior shifted from merely taking credit to actively minimizing my contributions. 28 years in architecture had taught me to document everything. The steel and glass structures I designed might appear delicate, but they were built to withstand storms. So was I. My desk phone rang. Lisa from reception. Eleanor, there's someone from Alden Partners asking for you in the lobby. Says it's about a consultation you did for them? I froze. Alden Partners was our biggest competitor. I'd never done work for them. I'll be right down. In the elevator, I considered the possibilities. Amanda had been unusually interested in my personal design notebooks lately. The ones containing sketches for sustainable urban waterfront developments, projects I worked on after hours, purely for creative satisfaction. Richard Morrison waited in the lobby, an imposing figure in his late 50s. I recognized him immediately. We'd worked at the same firm in Boston 20 years ago. Eleanor Harris, he smiled, extending his hand. It's been a long time. Richard, this is unexpected. I was hoping to discuss the winter garden concepts you provided. They're remarkable, particularly the adjustable flood barriers integrated with public spaces. My stomach dropped. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. I haven't provided any concepts to Alden Partners. His brow furrowed. That's strange. Amanda Collins shared your preliminary designs last month. Said you provided consultation with William's blessing. The room seemed to tilt. I asked to see the designs, and Richard obliged, pulling out his tablet. There they were, my personal sketches with minor modifications. The core concept unmistakably mine. Elevated green spaces connecting historical buildings with flexible areas that could be reconfigured during flood seasons. Ideas I developed thinking about my childhood home, destroyed by flooding when I was 12. These were presented as collaborative work between your firm and ours, Richard explained. We were impressed enough to incorporate several elements into our proposal to the city. I forced my voice to remain steady. Who else has seen these designs? Our entire executive team, and we've already presented to the City Development Commission. They were quite excited. I need to check something with my office. Would you excuse me a moment? In the restroom, I leaned against the wall, processing this revelation. Amanda hadn't just taken credit for my work within our firm. She'd been selling my concepts to our competitors. The ethical violation was staggering. My phone buzzed with a meeting notification. All staff, special announcement, 3 p.m. today. The announcement. The conference room filled quickly. I chose a seat near the back, noting the excited whispers. Amanda stood at the front beside William Grant, resplendent in a tailored navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. William, looking frailer than I remembered, smiled proudly at her. Their relationship had always reminded me of father and daughter, a connection I understood William craved since losing his wife 2 years ago. Today marks an exciting new chapter for Grant Architectural Design, William announced. We're forming a strategic partnership with Alden Partners for the Winter Garden Revitalization Project. On the screen appeared my renderings, now branded with both companies' logos. This collaboration, spearheaded by Amanda Collins, represents the innovative thinking that drives our firm forward, William continued. Amanda's vision for Winter Garden has already impressed city officials and secured preliminary approval. Amanda stepped forward, beaming. Thank you, William. This project exemplifies our commitment to sustainable urban renewal. She clicked through my sketches, explaining concepts I developed while thinking of my grandmother's garden, the way she'd built it to channel rainwater during storms, protecting the foundation of her small wooden house. Each slide twisted the knife deeper. To lead this exciting new direction, William concluded, I'm pleased to name Amanda our new creative director, effective immediately. Applause filled the room. Amanda accepted with practiced humility, her gaze briefly meeting mine with a flicker of warning. When the presentation ended, I approached William. Could I speak with you privately about the Winter Garden project? Of course, Eleanor. Let's use my office. Hope sparked. William had recruited me personally 8 years ago, impressed by my sustainable design philosophy. Perhaps he'd listen. Amanda intercepted us in the hallway. William, We should discuss the transition plan for my role. And didn't you have that call with the board at 3:30? Yes. He checked his watch. Eleanor, can this wait until tomorrow? It's regarding the origin of the Wintergarten designs, I said firmly. Amanda's smile tightened. Actually, William, that reminds me. There are some concerns about Eleanor's performance I've been meaning to discuss. William looked between us. Let's address this now, he decided, gesturing us both into his office. For 20 minutes, I listened as Amanda systematically undermined me. She presented doctored timelines suggesting I'd claimed credit for collaborative work. She referenced performance issues that had never appeared in my reviews. Worst of all, she implied I'd accessed her computer and copied her Wintergarten concepts. That's completely untrue, I finally interrupted. I have proof that, Eleanor, William said, his voice tired. This isn't productive. Given these issues and our new partnership, we think it's best to accelerate your transition. You're terminating me today without investigating her claims? Amanda produced a folder. Your separation agreement. Standard terms, 2 months severance. I stared at the document, rage and disbelief warring within me. And if I dispute this, William's expression hardened. We have documentation of performance issues going back months. Fighting this would only damage your professional reputation. We both knew what he meant. Amanda had been building a case against me, manipulating records to create a narrative of incompetence. Even with my evidence, a legal battle would be messy, public, and potentially career-ending. I understand, I said quietly, taking the folder. Amanda smiled sympathetically. I'll help communicate this transition to the team. The awakening. That evening, I sat in my garden, deadheading roses with perhaps more force than necessary. The separation agreement lay unopened on my kitchen table. My phone had been buzzing with texts from concerned colleagues. I'd silenced it, needing space to think. 28 years in architecture. 8 years at Grant. Countless designs appropriated by others, primarily Amanda. Now I was being discarded, my professional reputation threatened. My daughter Kate called as darkness fell. At 24, she'd inherited my stubbornness and analytical mind. Mom, what's going on? Michael texted me that you're leaving Grant. I hadn't wanted to burden her with this. She was in her final year of medical school, her residency applications pending. It's a complicated situation, honey. Mom. Her voice took on that tone, the one she'd used since childhood when detecting my half-truths. Tell me what happened. So I did. About Amanda's systematic appropriation of my work. About the Wintergarten project. About being fired with a thinly veiled threat to my reputation if I fought back. That's outrageous. Kate's indignation warmed me. You can't let her get away with this. I may not have a choice. It's her word against mine, and she's been very careful. The mother I know wouldn't give up. The woman who worked full-time while raising 2 kids alone, who went back to architecture at 45 when everyone said you were too old, who taught me to stand up for myself. She wouldn't let someone steal her life's work. I closed my eyes, remembering the day I'd gone back to architecture after a decade-long hiatus to raise my children. The skeptical looks, the assumptions that I couldn't keep up with technology, the surprise when my designs proved both innovative and practical. I'd fought my way back then. Perhaps I could fight now. You're right, I said finally. I need to think strategically. That's my mom. What's your first move? I'm going to visit Grandma tomorrow. At Mother's home. The next day. My mother's house in Connecticut hadn't changed much since my childhood. At 84, she still maintained her garden with religious devotion and kept my father's study exactly as he left it before his death 15 years ago. You're brooding, she observed, setting tea beside me as I sorted through old design portfolios I'd stored in Dad's study. Like when you were 12 and that teacher said girls couldn't be architects. I smiled despite myself. Some things never change. Tell me what happened, she commanded, settling into Dad's old leather chair. I explained the situation, watching her expression shift from concern to indignation. This Amanda sounds like that supervisor you had at Berkman and Associates. The one who took credit for your hospital redesign. Different decade, same story, I agreed. Mother reached for an old photo album. Remember this? She opened to a picture of me at graduation, standing beside my architectural model, a community center designed to withstand coastal flooding. Your father was so proud. He always said your buildings would outlast us all. If they get built with my name on them, I said softly. Eleanor Rose Harris, my mother said firmly. Your talent is yours. No one can take that from you. Not this Amanda person, not anyone. She was right, of course. I had spent decades developing my sustainable design philosophy. My building stood on solid foundations, even if others' names adorned the plaques. I turned to a portfolio from early in my career. There, in careful drafting, were the seeds of what would become my signature approach to flood-resistant design, the very concepts Amanda had stolen for the Winter Garden project. I need to gather evidence, I said, more to myself than Mother. Establish a timeline of my design development. That's my girl, Mother smiled. Fight smart, not just hard. As I drove home that evening, my resolve strengthened. I would not disappear quietly. I would not let Amanda Collins erase 3 decades of work. Most importantly, I would show my children that integrity and talent still mattered, even in a world that often rewarded style over substance. The strategy unfolded. Over the next 3 days, I methodically built my case. My external hard drive contained a treasure trove, original design files with metadata proving my authorship, email chains showing the evolution of concepts Amanda later claimed, performance reviews contradicting her claims of my inadequacy. Most damning was an email chain from 3 years ago I'd almost forgotten. Amanda, seeking my input on a struggling project, had explicitly acknowledged my authorship of the coastal restoration design. Need your magic touch on this one, she'd written, the kind of innovative approach that made your coastal project such a success. Sunday evening, my phone rang. Michael, calling from his backyard where he was grilling dinner for his family. You sound better than I expected, he said after preliminary greetings. I'm done being a doormat, I replied, pruning my garden as we talked. There was something therapeutic about nurturing plants while planning my professional resurrection. Amanda's telling everyone you've been stealing her designs for months, Michael said. She showed emails that supposedly came from your account sending designs to outside firms. I nearly dropped my shears. That's impossible. I never sent. Then it hit me. When did she say these emails were sent? Last month mostly. Dates when you were visiting Kate in Boston. She accessed my computer, I realized. She must have used my email. That makes sense, Michael agreed. But she presented it convincingly. Even people who like you're starting to doubt. There's more, he continued hesitantly. A rumor that Alden Partners might hire you after your non-compete period. I understood immediately. Her insurance policy. She's setting it up to look like I sold my designs to them all along. Exactly. If you take action against Grant, she'll use that narrative. I consider this snipping a dead rose with precision. Michael, when you reach our age in this business, what's the one thing you value most? He didn't hesitate. Reputation. Precisely. Amanda is gambling that I value mine too much to fight. But she's miscalculated. At 56, I have less to lose and more to prove than she thinks. What's your plan? Michael sounded worried. Monday morning, I submit a formal complaint to the board with my evidence. Bold move. Amanda has William wrapped around her finger. William Grant built this firm on quality and integrity, I said. Somewhere under that infatuation with Amanda, he still values those things. After hanging up, I knelt in my garden, fingers working the soil. My career, like these plants, had endured seasons of drought and frost, periods of breathtaking bloom and devastating pruning. Perhaps this was simply another seasonal change, painful but necessary for new growth. The turning point, Monday morning, as I prepared to submit my complaint, an email notification appeared from William Grant. Eleanor, concerning developments have emerged regarding the Winter Garden project. Need to speak with you immediately. We agreed to meet at a cafe near the office. William looked haggard, the confident firm leader replaced by an anxious older man. After our announcement, he began without preamble. Portland officials requested additional background on the design concepts. They were impressed with the innovation and wanted to feature the designer's process in their public relations materials. I waited, sensing what was coming. Karen couldn't answer their technical questions, he continued. When pressed, she became evasive. One official recognized elements similar to your coastal restoration project and asked specifically about your involvement. And what did Amanda say? William grimaced. She claimed you had been her mentor, guiding her understanding of sustainable design principles. Despite everything, I laughed. Her mentor? She's been taking credit for my work for years. I'm beginning to see that, William admitted. Portland has paused the project pending clarification of the design authorship. Our partnership with Alden Partners is in jeopardy. Why tell me this? I've been terminated, remember? Because Amanda insists you have the original files that could resolve this issue. She's claiming you took them when you left. The audacity was breathtaking. Even now, Amanda was manipulating the situation, trying to force me to hand over my evidence. I have the original files, I confirmed, along with proof that they're my work, not Amanda's. William leaned forward. Eleanor, the firm's reputation is at stake. I studied the man who had once seen value in me. Under the corporate exterior was a grieving widower, afraid of losing the company he'd built from nothing. William, I came to Grant 8 years ago because you promised a place where creativity and integrity mattered more than politics. What happened to that vision? Pain flashed across his face. Margaret always said you were the future of the firm. His late wife had been a brilliant businesswoman, the pragmatic balance to William's creative vision. She recognized your sustainable approach before anyone else, he continued. Said you were ahead of your time. As we reached this emotional impasse, my phone buzzed with a news alert. Alden Partners announces withdrawal from Wintergarden Partnership. I showed William the headline. His face fell. It's already unraveling, I said gently. You have one chance to control the narrative before this becomes a public scandal. William stared at his coffee. What exactly do you want, Eleanor? Public acknowledgement of my work. Amanda removed from any project involving my designs. I want to present my Wintergarden concepts to the city officials personally. And the termination? I won't sign the separation agreement. The rest depends on what happens next. William nodded slowly. I'll need to consult with the board. As he left, I remained at the table, watching people hurry past the window. At 56, I had finally learned that my value didn't diminish with age, it appreciated, like fine craftsmanship. The confrontation. 2 days later, I stood before the Grant Architectural Design Board of Directors, William, and representatives from both Portland and Alden Partners. Amanda sat alone opposite me, her usual poise replaced by tense vigilance. Thank you all for coming, William began formally. We're here to address questions regarding the Wintergarden project designs. Amanda immediately tried taking control. I'd like to start by expressing my disappointment that confusion has arisen about my work. While Eleanor contributed some initial feedback, the concepts were actually, I interrupted, connecting my laptop to the projector. I think it's better if I demonstrate. For the next 20 minutes, I methodically presented my evidence. Design files with timestamps predating Amanda's claims by years, process documentation showing the evolution of concepts, and most devastatingly, emails where Amanda herself acknowledged my authorship. These designs represent my work, I concluded, developed over nearly 3 decades of specializing in sustainable urban renewal. The Wintergarden concept specifically evolved from my coastal restoration principles, which Amanda has repeatedly claimed as her own. I displayed a final slide, a photograph of my childhood home after the flood that destroyed it, beside my earliest sketches of water diverting architectural elements. This isn't just professional for me, I said quietly. This is personal. The foundations of my design philosophy were laid when I was 12 years old, watching my family's home wash away. Every building I've designed since carries that lesson. Architecture must respect and work with nature, not against it. The room was silent. The Portland officials exchanged glances. These are precisely the technical details we've been requesting, one said pointedly to Amanda. This is absurd, Amanda protested, her voice rising. She's manipulated those timestamps. She's trying to sabotage me because she's jealous of my promotion. Actually, said Richard Morrison, our technical team has verified the metadata. These are unquestionably the original files. Furthermore, added William quietly, Our IT department has confirmed unauthorized access to Eleanor's computer during her Boston trip last month. Amanda's face drained of color. William, you can't possibly believe. Amanda, he interrupted firmly. I think it's time for you to leave. As she was escorted from the room, I felt no triumph, only relief that the truth had finally emerged. The meeting that followed was transformative. William, fighting to salvage the firm's reputation, announced my reinstatement with a promotion to creative director. The Portland officials requested I personally lead the Winter Garden project moving forward. I underestimated you, William admitted when we met privately afterward. I should have listened when you tried to tell me what was happening. Yes, you should have, I agreed, not willing to absolve him too easily. 8 years of my work was attributed to someone else while you looked the other way. Margaret would have seen through Amanda immediately, he said softly. She always said I was too easily charmed by style over substance. I nodded, understanding for the first time how much his wife's death had affected his judgment. We need to establish clear attribution protocols, I said. No one at Grant should ever again wonder if their work will be recognized. You'll have full authority to implement whatever systems you feel necessary, William promised. Epilogue. 2 months later. The community center buzzed with excitement. Local residents, city officials, and young architects from our firm mingled as we unveiled the final Winter Garden designs. The project had evolved beautifully, incorporating input from community stakeholders while maintaining the core sustainable elements I'd originally envisioned. Mom. Kate's voice carried across the room. She and her brother James had flown in for the presentation, their presence more meaningful than any professional validation. You look different, James observed, hugging me. More. I don't know, yourself. I smiled, understanding what he meant. The weight of constant accommodation, of swallowing credit stolen by others, had lifted. At 56, I had finally claimed my rightful place. William approached with a young woman in her 20s. Eleanor, this is Jessica Chen, our newest junior architect. She specifically asked to work with you. Jessica looked at me with undisguised admiration. Your coastal designs inspired my thesis project. I can't believe I get to learn from you directly. As I began explaining my approach to Jessica, I caught sight of my reflection in the glass wall. I stood straighter now, spoke with quiet authority. The Eleanor who had accepted relegation to the background was gone. Was it worth it? Kate asked later as we celebrated over dinner. Fighting back after all those years? I considered the question, remembering Amanda's dismissive words that fateful day in the cafe. The firm values your historical perspective. History matters, I replied with a smile. It teaches us that foundations matter more than facades, that true innovation comes from experience, and that sometimes you have to weather a storm to prove your designs can stand. Kate raised her glass. To architects who build bridges to the future, and to mothers who show their children how to cross them. As for Amanda, she had left architecture entirely, last I heard. But her legacy remained, ironically, in the form of clear attribution protocols now implemented at architectural firms across the city, inspired by what became known as the Collins Incident. My career had entered a new phase. The spotlight I'd avoided for years now felt like a responsibility rather than a burden. I mentored younger staff, particularly women returning to the profession after raising families. I established clear protocols for design attribution at Grant, and finally received the recognition my work deserved. Most importantly, I showed my children and myself that it's never too late to stand up for your life's work, and that experience, like a well-designed building, only grows more valuable with time.